everybody. I'm your host, Pastor Tracy Stone from the Praise Community Church in Lawrenceville, Georgia. What a delight it is to come into your life today to share the good news of Jesus Christ. We've got a wonderful program in store for you, a lot of great guests, some wonderful music. In just a few moments, our youth band from our church, Fusion Youth, they're going to be leading us in worship and praising and lifting up the name of the Lord. And they're just an exciting group. And we have several authors and some chaplains and other wonderful guests that are going to be sharing with us tonight. So you'll want to call people and let them know, hey, Atlanta Live is on the air. And also, as always, there's a number that's on the bottom of the screen. That number's there, so you may call in. Prayer partners are waiting to agree with you, whether you're sick, whether you're down, maybe you've had a bad week or a bad day. You can call that number and someone will pray with you and lift you up in prayer and tell you that God can deliver you and set you free. There's always hope in Christ. Never give up, but always look to Him. We're going to go in just a moment and we're going to hear them sing a powerful song. It's entitled Freedom. And I know that God is going to use that song to minister to you now. God bless you.
Before I want to sing a little louder than before. I want to jump higher than before. I want to shout louder than before. Come on and sing freedom, freedom. Come on. Sing a little louder than before. I want to spin wilder than before. I want to shout louder than before. Come on, say freedom, 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 freedom. Higher than before. I want to love you more than before. I want to worship deeper than before. I gotta scream louder than before. Come on, say freedom, freedom. Chains, no more bondage, I am free, yeah. Singing, no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage, I am free, yeah. One more time, say no more shackles, no more chains, no chains, no more bondage. I am free. Yeah. Clean against no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage. I am free. Yeah. See, no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage. I am free. Yeah. Now if you believe it, sing with me. Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Thank you so much, Pastor Levin. Pastor Levin pastors our youth there at the church, and they're doing a tremendous job. Thank you for leading us in worship with that wonderful song, Freedom. Well, we have with us now Dr. Amy and Dr. Jack. Both are a part of the American Chaplains Association. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. God bless you both. And it's just a wonderful work that you guys are doing to minister to people, and to do the work that you do is Christ-like.
Amen.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys and about the Association of Chaplains and what it's all about.
Okay, back in 2000, we saw a real need for people that were able to go into churches, but yet go outside the churches as well, and to serve as a chaplain. So in around 2010, we started the American Chaplains Association. And it's a group where everybody learns workplace chaplaincy, they learn hospital and hospice, jail and prison, they learn military chaplain as well as critical incident. And it's just a 24-week program. It's all done on the telephone, and they call in each week, and through that they learn how to become those areas that they want to be in, and then they go out beyond that and get more training.
And this is something you've been doing for quite a few years now.
Since 2010.
Wow,
Right,
that's
right,
awesome. And
right.
Dr. Amy, you have a private practice as well. You're connecting with people through ministry, business, and
I am. What I'm doing is doing chaplaincy, business chaplaincy, to infuse hope with people while they're at work. We spend more than 80% of our times in our jobs, and to be able to meet people right where they are makes a huge difference. If you can look them in the eye and value them as a person and step into their pain for just a little bit, they can redirect their work efforts. The owners of the company get the benefit of that, even if they don't have a personality that wants to listen or is trained to listen. And so that I'm out in the companies doing the chaplain work, and then during the private practice do more regular psychotherapy and counseling and life coaching, depending on where the person's point of need might be.
that's amazing work to be the minister in the marketplace. I like that. I think that's a Jesus model.
Amen.
Absolutely.
To be out in the marketplace. My family's real big into business and all over the country, but they kind of grew up with the business mentality and minister in the business. That's good.
Well, people don't realize the lack of productivity they have from a lot of their staff when they have problems. I mean, life doesn't happen from 9 to 5.
Right.
But that's where people work. And so after that, if they're going home, if they have problems, they bring them into work. And if we have a chaplain on staff or a chaplain that's available on call, then we're able to work through that with them. And what happens is the businesses are more productive. They have less turnover, and it just really increases everything they do.
That is so true. I mean, we see in our world the darkness of our society. We've seen over the past few months and recent days the horrific acts that people do upon humanity, and the need is there. People are hurting.
Absolutely.
They go through marital issues. They suffer in silence. So what you guys, sounds to me like you give an opportunity for people to come out of the closets and out of the shadows to share.
Yeah, we let them have a voice.
Yeah.
They speak freely to us. They sign a confidentiality sheet, and unless they're going to harm themselves or an employee or their business, then we keep that totally confident. And we talk with them, and sometimes we do it on site, sometimes we do it off site. Some people would rather meet us off site, and we're 24/7s. I mean, our phones are
24/7.
absolutely
365.
24/7s. Yeah.
Great.
365 days a year. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So anybody calls at 4 o'clock in the morning, they can speak to us. Absolutely.
And it helps to build relationship prior to anything happening, because there's many things that happen unexpectedly. And when they have a relationship with us already, it makes it very easy to make that phone call. Then my credentials or Jack's or any of our chaplains, at that moment, the credentials don't matter as much as I've got to talk to Amy, or I've got to let her know, or I need some help with this or that. And so it's a very proactive way to infuse hope in a situation and then bring order to chaos when something unfortunately terrible happens, because it's going to at some point, or someone would be touched by that. And it gives them a place where we can meet them right there. They don't have to make an appointment. They don't take time off work. We're right there on site with them.
Yeah, helping them to wrap their mind around their new normal.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing,
Right.
isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. Somebody said normal is only a setting on the dryer. So, if you think about it, and we also work with military families, like when soldiers deployed, the family needs a lot of help, and we will talk with them, or we'll work with them. And when he comes back or she comes back, they've changed, but the soldier hasn't. So they have to reorient into society. We're able to help with that as well. And
So, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to ask you.
Go ahead.
I want to ask you about volunteers, because people would probably hear this tonight and like, I really want to help, but I'm not a counselor, or I'm not a trained professional. I'm not a doctor, of course. So they would call, they would go online. What would they do?
Sure. If they want to go to the American Chaplains Association.org, they can go online. And if they go online, they can find out all we do. They can look it up. They can see. We can give, in these 24 weeks, we give them training. We're looking for people. We need people that are willing to go out, because let's face it, many people will never darken the doorstep of a church.
True.
And yet we're able to reach them, and many people are saved outside the church. Then they go back into a church after that.
So all of the training is done over the phone?
All of it's done online, and we send out material as well, but they study, but it's all done telephonically, yes.
That's amazing that people can, so they don't have to travel anywhere, just network through the phone and internet, or just phone.
Right.
Right, and it's an international program, so there's tests that they will take, and cross-mentoring that's available, and that sort of a situation. But it helps to have people that you can mobilize in very short notice, and to have them across the country, across the world, pre-trained, certified, ready to go, really helps when something comes up unexpectedly.
Wow, that's commendable, what you guys are doing. Thank you for your service, and God's blessed you with Dr. Jack with helping with a lot of executives, and you've been in business. I'm sure you have too, Dr. Amy.
We came out of business, so we understand the business side of it, but we were in church. Both of us been in church a long time. We didn't know a way to reach other people outside the church, and this was sort of just a culmination of how to do that.
That's a beautiful thing to see people at their point, the lowest point, and then watch them come back. That's got to be very gratifying to see people come back to a sustainable life, a life that brings hope. That's just beautiful. And so as people are engaging the process that you guys are doing through chaplaincy, that you're doing it through obviously, how can local churches be instrumental? Because me as a pastor, I'm sitting here thinking, how can we as a church? I know there are individuals that are listening, but how can we as a church?
We look for pastors that are willing to, have some of their parishioners that are looking to do something outside the church. And we also look for pastors that know they need help within their church, and we're able to do that as well. It really is a twofold ministry. I mean, we're there for them, they're there for us.
Absolutely. And so are you the Georgia Chaplain head guy, or what's the deal here? How does all that work?
Right. Yeah, I'm the head of the American nationally.
Okay,
So
you are the man nationally.
Well, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's what I often say.
That's somebody's like got to.
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah. So
yes.
You're over the whole nation of chaplains.
Right. In fact, right now we've got a class going on with 19 people from 5 different states. So we've reached the whole country. I mean, we've had people from Oregon, Texas, Florida, Washington, D.C., New Jersey, New York, that have all taken the course. And now they're able to do it wherever they are. Because, see, that's what we can't do. We're only 2 people.
Yes.
And our association, Dr. Travis and Dr. Julia, my wife, and we can't reach all these people. So what we do is we just keep reproducing ourselves over and over and over.
Well, that's what Christ, that's what he said, go make disciples.
Exactly. And the field is white for harvest.
It is that.
It really is.
And so you, in professional, Dr. Amy, you work professionally, helping people with through death, through hospice, all of the things that come with that.
Exactly.
And then this is your ministry side other than the business side. So you're part with Dr. Jack and the association.
I am in the association, but mine is it's a for-profit business is actually what mine would be, but the business owners are the ones that have me on their site. And so it's absolutely free to any of the employees or associates. So I'm available and I'm there because a lot of people can't afford it. And so I do a lot of stuff pro bono because that's just what I want to do. But the business owners are people that care. Some of them have a faith, some of them don't have a faith. Some of them are all over the map with that, but they love people and they want to be able to bring something exactly where that person is hurting. And so to have the ability to step into situations, going to Houston to the flood, going where there's been a shooting, going where there's a traumatic car accident, and having the ability and the training and the honor of walking in a hospital room or walking in 2 feet of water and just walking units with someone with an air mask on, listening to their story and being there for them, and being able to bring some sort of order to that chaos and that excruciating pain, and then being able to follow up with some materials, emotional first aid after a tragedy, to let them know, or their family members, what do you look for? When are flashbacks okay and an absolute part of the normal healing process? And when have they gone on a little bit too long? And then what do you do if you see someone hurting, or if you can't quit crying, or you can't sleep, and it walks them through the next best steps and when to reach out to a professional. So part of what chaplains are phenomenal in doing is knowing where their credentials and their skill set starts and stops. And that's to support, encourage, and direct. And then it gives them the ability to be triaged, first boots on the ground in a sense, and then be able to make connections if that person needs a little bit more in-depth counseling to get them all the way through it.
That is so vital. People, I know there are many that are watching that would say, boy, I've had a best friend pass, or this or that, family member, and I just didn't know what to say.
Exactly.
And I've been there even as a pastor in tragic moments, even having training myself, and have to catch myself to, okay, go back, this is what you do, because those traumatic moments, it's just beyond reason.
Exactly.
And a lot of times people don't want to go to their church. They're ashamed, or they're worried about if they know that I'm going through this,
exactly,
and going through that, I won't be accepted. And so we're able to do that. And the big thing is, working with companies, is we increase their ROI.
Yeah.
We really do. I mean, there's no, if they will hire chaplains their ROI will go up about 10% because they'll have less absenteeism, less mistakes, and less turnover.
Just for those of you watching, ROI, that's return on investment.
I'm sorry.
I studied business. That's it is. I knew exactly. But so everyone's like, ROI, what is that? You know, if the average person may not know that. But I got you.
Right.
So it's an investment, but the dividends are beyond.
Yeah. And think about it. If you work for a company and the owner of the company said, I'm going to hire somebody to come in to be there if you have problems or when you have problems, everybody has them.
You're going to have them.
So when you do or if you do, it just makes them feel more important that the company thinks enough of them to hire one of us to go in and do that.
And you're doing more than just helping them out of a problem. You're doing it through the love of Christ, biblical based.
Absolutely.
Everything is in the word that you guys are sharing.
100%, absolutely. Now, one of the things we do is we ask them if we can pray with them. We don't assume that because, again, some of the people aren't saved when we're talking to them. Doesn't mean that we can't bring Jesus to them go around the corner.
That's exactly right. You can backdoor it in.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter if you walk in or back in.
Doesn't matter how you get in.
It doesn't matter how you get in.
That's right.
That is, that's so good that you guys are networking. I know there's probably people watching even from our church that are going to make themselves available. So when they call in, who do they talk to?
Well,
is it pre-recorded or?
Oh, no.
No, we have. You mean
when you're studying?
Oh, Dr. Julia Kelly, which is my wife. She is the administrator for the American Chaplain Association. So they can call in. I can give you a phone number. They can call in at 404-387-3952, or they can go to the American Chaplains with an S, chaplainsassociation.org.
And then they log in and they can get all the information that they need.
Yeah, they should go to our website and look and see all the different areas and see what our code of ethics is and those things, because we want them to, we're very authentic and we're very upfront. We don't want, there are no secrets.
No, that's beautiful to be honest with people. I've found out in my life, honesty is the best.
Absolutely.
It is.
You don't ever have to change your story.
That's
True.
exactly right.
It is what it is. You don't ever have to remember, just remember the truth, whatever happened.
That's right.
I like to live that way.
Amen.
I just want to say, as a pastor and someone involved in crisis response through our ministry, thank you for what you guys are doing, for the training that's available for people. Is there a fee for any of this?
Yeah, there is a fee. They can join, but there's a fee if they go through the training, and it's very reasonable. And we work with people if they do need some help. We do have scholarship money available and that type thing.
That's awesome. I just want to say thank you again for sharing with us tonight and all of the guests that are home. And please go to their website, check it out, make yourself available that you can begin to be helping people reach out from where they are to where they need to be. And you can start even right now by dialing that number that's on the screen. Prayer partners are waiting. Maybe they've challenged you tonight, saying, hey, I'm going through some stuff. Maybe you've been through a divorce. Maybe you've gone through a sickness, or maybe some tragedy has happened in your life and is overwhelming you and it's bigger than you are. You're saying, I really don't know what to do. Somebody's back there waiting at the phone to say a prayer, to give an ear, to listen, and to say that Christ can help you through your storm. Let's go now as Fuse leads us into a song called Lion and the Lamb.
Coming on the clouds, kings and kingdoms will bow down. bow before him. Open up the gates, make way before the King of the God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Oh, yeah. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? Come on, sing with me. And who can stop the Lord Almighty? And who can stop the Lord Almighty? And who can stop the Lord Almighty? Who can stop the Lord? For God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him.
Well, thank you again, Levin. You guys you're singing it up tonight. You're lifting us up to a new level in Christ and worship. And thank you so much for your heart, for your passion for youth, and for doing a wonderful job tonight. God bless you. Thank you again for listening and tuning in. And we have a beautiful testimony about to come before you from Mr. Mark Ledbetter. Is that right?
Yes.
Mark,
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming tonight. And you wrote a book. It really touches me. Driving Mr. Charlie.
Yes, yes,
Talks about your journey of taking care of your dad with dementia.
yes, yes. I called him Pop.
Yeah?
He's my Pop. Yes, it's a story. It's a bittersweet story. It's tragic in many respects. Anyone who has family who has been victimized by any form of dementia, it's not just the individual who's afflicted with it, it's also the caregivers and family and the trauma they go through as they watch people slip away mentally, emotionally, and it's a difficult path to take.
Yeah, I remember reading an article about a young man, older man, who had went to the hospital every day and to have breakfast with his wife, and they said, "Why? She doesn't know you." Mm-hmm. And his response was, "Yeah, but I know her."
That's right. That's right.
My best friend growing up, he, for 13 plus years, gave up his career, sold his business, and took care of both of his parents
That's
until they
remarkable.
passed.
That's remarkable.
And to watch him go through this same journey, please share your story.
Well, I pastored for 28 years and then moved to what I'd call hometown in Sylacauga, Alabama. My parents lived there, and we immediately began to know the perils of trying to be a caregiver. My wife's mom and dad, she was a weekend warrior while she spelled her sister. And then I started working with my parents, and I took a job as a teacher, so I'd have some part-time available to drive my dad to the doctor's appointments, my mom, and started noticing some things about my dad. I said, this is not right. So we took him to a neurologist, and he diagnosed him originally as having Parkinson's. And also he'd had 5 strokes. And I knew something wrong because he turned the finances over to my mom, which was very unusual. And just little things were happening. And so I went in one day and looked at the car on the garage, and the front end had been smashed. And I went in and asked my dad, I said, Pop, what happened to the car? He said, what you talking about? And so I took him out there, and he didn't know what had happened. And all I could do is imagine who did he hit, what did he hit, and so forth. So it got to be very difficult for him. And so we finally diagnosed it as Lewy body dementia. There's many forms of dementia. The brain's, I'm not a clinician, but it's not connecting like it used to, the synapse and so forth. And for him, it started out in the lower and moved up to the memory and the motor skills. He started having the Parkinson's symptoms, but he had Alzheimer's as well. And so this was a man who was outgoing. This was a man who, if he met you, he would know your life story before he left you. He was a social, gregarious individual, and he met no strangers. So to see his demise from being this outgoing, warm individual, he always greeted you, well, hello, sunshine, or if it's a female, hello, beautiful. But he was sincere in that. That was the type man he was. And to see him slowly digress, or however you want to say it, to the point where he was beginning to introduce me as his father. My mom, who had abruptly left us, passed on, he began to introduce my sister as Barbara Jean, my mom. And so these little things, it's really hard. It's really hard on you emotionally. And I can remember in the process, I was trying to arrange a situation for both parents to go to assisted living. And my mom just had a blood clot and died. And so immediately I moved in with my dad. He couldn't be alone 24/7. I moved in with him, and we had some struggles because I didn't fully understand things. We had problems with, he didn't want to take a shower. Things like that. He didn't want to do his therapy when the home health came in, and it was always a struggle until I found out why. I tried to lead him into doing certain things, but he just wouldn't have it because he wanted to do it what he felt comfortable with. He would used to say, I don't think so well anymore, and sometimes he'd say, I'm so stupid. Now you can imagine how that would hurt when your dad is saying things like that when you know he's not. And so this whole progression, this whole thing, it's just, it was a journey. But what the book is about is the things he shared with me on the way to the doctor's appointments. And the tragedy was, he'd always start his spiel out with, I never will forget. And then he'd tell me the story, and I heard him so many times that I had him the memory, wrote them down. That's what's in the book, some of those things. He told me about how he and Mom met, and he talked to me about the war and what he went through in trying to get over, and he got to Hawaii, and the war was over, he said. And just this journey that he had, but I never will forget. He had pet phrases.
Yeah.
Bingo was his pet phrase. If I parked the car correctly, bingo. If I put the cart in the in the cart holder, bingo. He had, I'm sober as a judge. Somebody come and ask him, how you doing? So I'm sober as a judge. And I didn't ever understand what that was. And he would have all these pet phrases like that. And so that's kind of his story.
Yeah, but Mark, what a tremendous, amazing son that you were to your father. What amazing. That's commendable. But what I'm getting out of this story is you did something that most people can't or don't. You paused.
Yes.
You put life on pause. And that's just like what my friend did.
Yes.
They mashed pause.
That's right.
And you worked.
And it ties you down if you're a caregiver. And if I would be anything, not just an advocate for people, you need to know what's coming, because this is something that's growing as people my age, the baby boomers, it's just escalating. It's something that their children need to know, but the caregiver are victimized as well.
Talk to the people that I know, that you as well as I do, know that there are people right now that are either going through it with a dad or a mom or a personal family member. All of us
Right.
has been affected by this horrible disease. How does that person make it? How do they get from A to B? Because we know what the end is.
Right. Well, that's the thing. First of all, you have to have strong faith, because that faith and patience is going to be tried. I guarantee you that. There's people probably watching tonight or has had loved ones. Your patience is going to be tried until you learn how to cope and understand what the need is. And how
What was your process of learning how to cope?
I started doing research and what is going on. And once I understood what was taking place, because there are different stages. They go from just forgetting names, and they get to a point where they can't even button their clothes, and eventually, like my dad, they can't swallow, they can't walk, they forget. In his case, and it is hard to do that, because as you watch this is not the person I knew. This is not the person who pitched baseball with me and threw football with me. This is not the person who encouraged me in school or encouraged me in my ministry. And it was just to see the gleam fade from his eye and his smile. I would be an advocate for caregivers, because they are victimized by this as much as anyone else. They're tied down. They have very little relief if they don't have other family support. This is a great opportunity for churches to get involved in those who have homebound, regardless if it's dementia or any form or any other reason. It's a tremendous need, because they're out there, a lot of them, and I'm also a hospice chaplain, and they're fighting a battle by themselves a lot of times. And if this had someone to spell them to go to the grocery store, or go to the beautician, or go to Walmart's, or whatever, just give them some time to sit with that individual. It's a tremendous opportunity for churches to get involved individually, because a lot of times these are folks who used to go to church but can't go to church. They prayed people through. They were financial givers. They were the reason why we have churches today, and yet they kind of get lost in the shuffle, so to speak, in the dynamics. If people want real ministry or service, they need to reach out and touch those people who are hurting. So I can think of my sister, fortunately, she was very helpful. She took care of my parents when I was pastoring. But I would be with him Monday through Friday. She'd come spell me, and then Saturday night, and we would begin to compare notes, and we noticed things, and it was just as difficult for her, obviously, as it was for me. I try to keep that stoic, strong face, just because I had to. There was things we had to face. I would tell people, I don't want to digress too far, but I would tell people, if you know that your parents are beginning to show symptoms, you need to get some things in order. You need to get a power of attorney in place. You need to have a living will or a health proxy. You need to have some way that you can seize hold.
I hate to interrupt, but go back right there. Just name those few little things. Obviously, we're not lawyers.
Right.
We're not giving legal advice,
No,
but what we're saying is
disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer.
No, we're just giving practical things that they need to talk to a lawyer. They need to go through those lists again. You've been there. You know what you're talking about. Power of attorney.
That gives you the authority to act on behalf. I'm talking general terms. You have a living will. You need to get their needs written down, what their desire is. If they don't want CPR, somebody needs to know that, because if EMT shows up and they don't have a do not resuscitate, they're going to sit there and try to resuscitate because they're bound to.
That's right.
But if you have a do not resuscitate, they won't touch them. And the CPR, especially for seniors, is devastating, because every bone is brittle and cracked bones, and there's no guarantee they'll survive. And so you need to know these things, because it's going to happen somehow, some way as we go on. Fortunately, it won't happen for everybody, but if you have I'm 65 years old. I'm in that lower echelon. It gets higher as you get older, obviously. Kids, the children need to know power of attorney, living will, or health proxy power of attorney. They need to make funeral arrangements. They need to go to funeral home and say, hey, we need to make some arrangements. It helped me a tremendous amount when my sister and I sat down with the funeral director, and Mom and Dad had everything prepaid, and all we had to do was sit down and write the order of service, and it was a benefit. You need to know about all these things going into it, because if your mom or your dad has dementia, they're not going to be able to make the decisions. I was very fortunate that 2 weeks before the doctor told me not to let my dad sign any more documents, I had that power of attorney in hand. Because if you don't have that, you're looking at some very difficult decisions that you're going to have to make. And if you don't have that plan in place, it's going to complicate things. People's feelings are going to get hurt. Cross words are going to be said. But if you know what Mom and Dad want before, then it's going to help you tremendously. And I would be that advocate, again, going back, helping people who are tied down to this, because there's anticipatory grief. This is grief you are anticipating. Everybody's going to grieve in one way or another when they pass. But as you're watching this individual,
you're grieving through the process.
You're already in that process. That person, that parent is in the process. They've lost a host of things. They've lost independence. They've lost intimacy. They've lost control. But you know, Jesus looked at Peter and said, when you were young, you girded yourself and went where you went, wherever you wanted to go. But when you're old, somebody else will gird you and take you somewhere else. That's a fact of life. And we don't deal with it very well. We don't deal with that aspect. But, you know, as Christians, as believers, we shouldn't struggle with death, because it's one of the best things that can happen to us if we're going to go. But so many Christians struggle with that. They struggle with that. But, hey,
to live is Christ and to die is gain.
All right. But you know, dementia can be caused by, we used to call it, I remember my grandmama, great-grandmama in South Georgia, she sat on the front porch on the rocking chair, you know, and she sat there, and that was it, and everybody took care of everybody. But now we're all working, and like I said, some people just have to take off, like your friend has to take off. Somebody's got to take care of them. You've got to be their advocate. I guarantee you that.
Tell me now, because now obviously your dad has passed.
Yes.
And has gone on to his reward.
Yes.
What does Mark do now afterwards? How does what happens? Because I mean, people obviously they know what the end is. It's a tragic disease. The end is death. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do afterwards? What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? Well,
Yes.
I am a hospice chaplain, but I'm also trying to work. I am in the process of forming a support group called The Journey, which is for people facing dementia or their loved ones or family. A support group, because to give them an outlet, to give them understanding. There's a lot of resources. You can Google it, and you can get information, but to sit down and talk with other people who are going through and facing things. When I released the book, it went on Facebook, and people have bought the book. And I've gotten personal messages, you don't know, I've laughed and I cried. And they shared, my mom is in early stages, what do I do? And all of a sudden it became an opportunity. My dad, who was always giving in the church, I wish I had a member like him. He made sure the lights were off and on, the air conditioner was set, he collected money, and he made, if something needed to be done, he did it. He's always trying to help other people. He is still helping people. His story is still helping people. They need to know. They need to know what they're encountering.
So you're creating support groups?
Yes, support groups. I'm trying to work on a manual for churches about member care to try to get people who are motivated by the gifts of mercy and serving, how they can get involved and helping the pastor. You know how it is. Again, pastor is the load they carry. How do we get people engaged in carrying that load? For people, how do we get them involved? That's one thing that I'm trying to do, and then I'm just listening, watching. If I pick up on something, I'll go and talk. One of the men sent me a personal message. I went and took him a book. I said, here. I rode with a police officer. We got to talking about his mother. Well, and we're just talking, and he starts opening up, and I said, really? And so I took him a book. And I have an individual who goes to the gym with us. Believe it or not, I actually go to work out in the gym. But she purchased 2 books, she said, because I want to be in position to give them to other people who are facing what you're facing, had faced. And so this is just, someone said, did you intend to do this? I said, I just followed my heart. And this is what God put on my heart, and sat down and had all these memories and all these things and began to put it together.
So the name of the book is Driving Mr. Charlie.
Yes.
And that's the book that tells your dad's story and your story of how
Yes.
you journeyed from home to the hospital and other places with Mr. Charlie.
Yes. So much more in the book that I can't share, but
That's fine. That's why you write a book, so
That's
they
right.
can read it and tell the story. But you didn't peel the onion very far, but you peeled the onion far enough that you touch with people. You got in touch with people tonight that are hurting.
our prayer is that.
You did. You connected with me, and if you connect, I connected with you tonight through your story, because I feel the pain, and there are many.
There are many.
There are many. There are many right now who you feel the pain, you feel the urge to give up because you feel like there's nobody out there that even knows or cares, and you feel trapped. I remember hearing my friend tell me that he just wished somebody would come
Yes.
so he could go to the store.
Yes.
I want you to know that we're going to pray through this program tonight that people are connecting. You can call the number that's on the screen. Maybe you're sitting there and you're screaming out, I need help. I need somebody to help me. Call that number that's on the screen. Let a prayer partner pray with you. Maybe God will lead and direct paths of people in your life that can help you and direct you and to give you some relief. I know without a doubt God's able to do anything for you. Let's go now as Fuse leads us once again into the presence of God. At any time, you can call that number. God bless.
Crowned with glory now, the Savior knelt to wash our feet. victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. The fear that held us now gives way to Him who is our peace. The final breath upon the cross is now alive in me. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. And weight was borrowed for 3 days. This body there would not remain. Come on, our God has robbed the grave. Our God has robbed the grave. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. By your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. In your name I come alive to declare your victory. The is resurrecting me.
Hallelujah. Thank you again, Levin and the team from Fusion, for reminding us of the resurrected power of God. He tells us in the book of John, I believe it's 1 John, that He is love. And because He is love, then we are to love as He has loved us. And tonight we have heard so far in this program about the love of God, people reaching out to others to share the love and to express the commitment that they have to be the body of Christ, the hands extended. Once again, I want to encourage you. In fact, I want to ask you to dial that number that's on the screen. Let us agree with you tonight. We want to pray over your requests. We want you to know that God's love for you is stronger and greater. We love you. We appreciate you for tuning in. God bless you. We'll see you soon. Well, welcome. We're glad you tuned in with us. I'm Pastor Tracy Stone from Praise Community Church, and what a joy it is to be coming again back into your life on Atlanta Live. The number's on the screen. Dial that number. Let someone agree with you that your life can change in a moment that you pray that prayer and invite Jesus into your life. Hope and restoration and joy unspeakable and full of glory can fill your life, and your life could be the greatest you've ever known. A friend of mine says that your best days, that the rest of my life is going to be the best of my life. And I do believe that for you, that the rest of your life could be the best of your life if Jesus Christ is Lord of your life. There's a lot going on, but you can reach out to Christ and He will give you the peace and the assurance that you need as we go through this life. Through life, we've got to learn in difficult seasons to praise and to glorify and lift up the name of the Lord. And I want us to go and now as we begin to do just that and praise the name of the Lord. Take us away, Levin, as we praise the Lord.
To Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see His wounds, ancient years, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone. Messiah still and all alone. And oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Then all the third at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. And no trampled dead, where is your sting? The angels roar, for God's a King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. And he shall return in robes of white. The blazing sun shall pierce the night, and I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Come on, if you believe it, sing. Yeah. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh Lord our God. Oh Lord our God.
Thank you once again. That's the Fusion Youth Band singers and musicians from Praise Community Church in Lawrenceville. I promise you, these guys are amazing. They sing in the main sanctuary as well. We're just delighted that they're with us tonight, sharing the message of Jesus through song and ministering to our hearts. And God bless them for their efforts and what they do. We have with us now Miss Debbie Morgan. God bless you, Miss Debbie. Thank you for taking time to come and share with us and to pour your story of what God's doing in your life.
All right, thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you. You know, you wrote a book, and this book has been the onset of what God's been doing in your life lately.
Yes, sir.
Through the Storm, a story of hope, faith, and love.
Yes,
Tell us
sir.
about it.
Well, August 2016, our family was home in the living room, just as normal. We're all watching TV. And then all of a sudden we hear what sounded like a gunshot. And I asked, well, who's shooting at R2? Because we have a R2-D2 that my husband made in the living room. Normal living room attire, right?
Yeah, I guess.
And I asked, who's shooting at R2? And my husband said, we have it at fire. And I was like, we don't have a fire. I don't see any visible fire. So he told us to immediately get out of the house, my daughter and I. So we got out of the house, but we didn't see any damage, any fire anywhere. He went stairs to try to find out where the fire was. And then we ended up getting R2 out of the house. R2 weighs about 150 pounds, so he's very heavy, so it was hard for us to get him out. But we managed to. And then our dog was downstairs because there was lightning that night, so we took our dog down there. So we got our dog out safe. And my husband found the fire in the closet downstairs in our basement. And so we took the fire extinguisher. I had come back in the house because I didn't see a fire, so I was like wanting to see what I could do to help. And we were in the closet and trying to put out the fire, and then all of a sudden the fire got so bad, the smoke was really, really bad, and so we had to get out of the house. But I paused because I wanted to grab something. I wanted to grab my pictures. Those are the one thing that I found that was thinking, all of this other stuff can be replaced, but these pictures, the pictures of our family and all that we've had throughout the years cannot be replaced. So I go in our closet and try to grab the pictures, so they're all heavy. I didn't know which ones to grab. I didn't know, there's so many of years that we've all had together. So the smoke begins to get so bad that we all have to get out of the house, and we all have to wait. And we're waiting, and as we're waiting, for the fire trucks have come, and there's lots of fire trucks. They have firemen in our living room and also in our basement trying to put out the fire because the fire had become so bad. We did not realize it at the time, but we had investigators come after the fire, and they told us that we had a direct lightning strike to the gas line of our house.
Oh my.
And they asked, how did this house not blow up? How are you still standing here? And I said, God protected us, and he kept us safe. And he was just there for us and kept us safe that night.
Wow, what an amazing testimony.
Yes.
Of the keeping power of God.
Right. God
that
is our
protected
protector.
your family.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so from that obviously traumatic experience, obviously God began to journey you to lead to the book and to lead to you to be able to speak out through storms and hope.
Right. After we've had the fire, we had to move in with our neighbors. We actually stayed with them a couple of weeks till we could kind of get, we were looking for an apartment and looking for a place to live because we were not able to move back in our home. So we tried to find out an apartment, and that one that we could take R2 in, had to have an elevator, had to be on the top floor so we could get him, and it had to have 3 bedrooms because my husband worked from home. So we had a lot, so it was hard to find an apartment with all of those criteria.
Yeah, that list is kind of extensive.
Yes, it is. So, but God told me to write a book. When we started the construction process was not going very well. We were having difficulty with the construction workers doing what they were supposed to do. When in our living room, we had a big hole in our living room where the fire had come from the basement to our main level. So there was a big giant hole in our living room. So they had to take board A and take it to board B, which doesn't sound too difficult. And they were having difficulties getting it straight and cutting corners. So God reminded me is that if we all have our foundation in Christ through storms in life and through the difficulties that we go through, that if we have our foundation, he can see us through everything if we have our foundation in him and look to him as the source of our hope.
Okay. So you started just getting taught the lesson through the house.
Right. I started, as we were repairing the house, we had enormous difficulty with just getting things done and getting things repaired. And God just taught me so many lessons and gave us so many stories to share as a result of what we had been through. And I began journaling as he began to tell me to write a book. And I began reading Psalm. I found that David actually knew how I felt. He knew what I was going through. It was surprising to me how he knew the depths of my pain. I actually named a chapter "Get Out of the Pit" because I felt like at times we had going through so much that, I just felt like I was in a pit and I didn't know how to get out. And God just reminded me of his truth and his promises in Psalm, and it just really encouraged me and lifted me up. So I began journaling and talking out, what I was learning through the process. And in February of last year, I began writing the story down, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Yeah, you were just writing.
I was just writing because God told me to write. I didn't know what was going to happen with it. And one day, a friend on Facebook, she posted, "Has God told you to write a book and you haven't written it?" Like, yes, that's me. So I called her and we began the journey because I didn't know how to write a book. And I didn't know what the process of that was. But I knew with God, I could do anything, with all things.
Absolutely.
Right?
So I believe one of your chapters is waiting.
Waiting on God.
You learn how to wait.
Yes, absolutely. One day I was with my mom. We were actually in the hospital, and she was having a test done, and I wasn't sure the outcome of that. And that day I was waiting on whether we were going to be able to, my brother has foster kids, and whether we were going to be able to keep one of them. We were waiting on my mom, results of that. My husband's sister had cancer, and that day we were waiting on whether it was going to be good test results or not. It turned out they were not. So it was a day of waiting, but we all have times of waiting. We're not sure the next step. We're not sure where we're supposed to go, what we're supposed to do. But if we seek God and seek him and cry out to him, and in the depths of our soul, in our troubles, in our storms, he's going to help us and show us the way.
So that had to be a traumatic experience to just, I guess, at home in a normal evening, watching television, spending
Right.
family time, and boom, hit with lightning. Obviously, you know what the boom was now.
Right.
It was a lightning bolt.
It was a lightning
To your
bolt.
world being turned upside down in a hotel,
Right.
or an apartment rather, and then the process of waiting and journaling and writing. And what was it like when I think another chapter you wrote about moving back. What was it like when you finally got to go back home into your life and just almost like restart?
Right. You would think that process would be a happy process, but for us it was a kind of a mourning because we had just lost Steve's sister.
That was during this same time frame.
Yes, a couple weeks prior to us moving home, she passed away. We had aunts and uncles that had passed away during this process, and so for us it was a time of mourning because we had not had time to mourn our loved ones that we had lost along the way. We had not had time to really process what we had been through. So it was just we should have been maybe rejoicing, but it was a time for us for mourning, just to kind of coping with what we had been through.
I think I'm going to write a sermon
Yeah.
off when victory doesn't look like victory.
Right.
Or maybe I call it when victory doesn't feel like victory.
Right. Actually, my daughter wrote a song about victory during this process.
Really?
Yes, she did.
Because, I mean, that life, people go through stuff.
Yes, they do.
And storms happen to everybody.
Exactly.
Whether it be sickness or marital problems or kids,
Exactly.
finances, people at work. I mean, you just name it. People go through stuff.
Right.
And God chose you through a lightning bolt that should have blew your house
Right.
completely up.
Right.
But the favor of God and the protection of God.
Right. Exactly.
So out of that, you wrote this book to touch people's lives,
Absolutely.
hurting,
Yes.
storms.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you said it earlier about storms. I don't think we were on the air yet. Either people what? They're about storms.
They're either going in one, or they're coming out of one, or about to go in one.
Yeah, they're in the middle of it.
They're in the middle of it.
So their storms are just a part of life.
They are.
It's the ebb and the flow of life. It's up, it's down.
Right.
Who was it? Andre Crouch who penned the words, "If I didn't have a valley, I wouldn't know how to appreciate the mountain.
Right.
If I
Exactly.
didn't have a rainy day, I wouldn't know how to appreciate the sunshine."
Right. Exactly. And through this, I have gotten just a relationship that it's just a lot different from what I experienced before. My relationship with God is so much deeper, and I really feel like I know God a lot more because of the storms and the things that we've been through. And we've had to have faith through all of this.
Absolutely. I don't, we've just met tonight, but I would probably say that material things mean very little now.
No, they don't mean. They're just stuff. They can all be replaced. Our relationship with God and our relationship with our family is most important.
You're right. Things
Yes.
come and go out of our life.
Right, exactly.
But it's the people, it's the relationships, it's the connections.
Yes.
And through this book, I know you're touching people's lives that are hurting.
I hope and pray so.
And I know tonight that you're touching people that are listening and watching today that are going through maybe a storm in your life or a trial. They don't have to give up,
No,
even if it's bad.
right.
You lost it all.
We
You know,
lost
what
a
didn't
lot.
burn smoked out, didn't it? You
We
lost it
a
all.
lot. We didn't lose everything. We just lost, majority of the fire was in the basement. So we lost a lot of our equipment and sound equipment, and my husband had a workshop in the back area.
A lot of
We
your
lost-
keepsakes,
We lost all keepsakes, yes. Yes.
the
So-
true treasures,
Yes,
memories
yes.
of those things.
We did lose a lot. We lost a pirate ship, which that was the one thing.
Pirate ship. Now, I've got a little bit of
know.
time left. You've got to tell. You have an R2. You guys
I
are.
know.
You're
We
an
have
amazing
some great
family.
stories in this book.
I guarantee you.
Yes,
So they
we
need to
have some
avail
great
themselves to
story.
the book Through the Storm.
But-
What a blessing. And you
Yes.
tell about all these different
Yes, I
things.
tell about the different stories. But my husband had incurable cancer, and he made a pirate ship while he was doing chemo. And when they came and asked to restore everything and take everything out of our home, they said, "Oh, we're not going to be able to clean this." And I said, I became crying, and I was very sad because a lot of the other stuff could be replaced, but that was a memory for me that what we had been through with the cancer. And they said, "I'll just take it and I'll see what I can do with it." But they weren't able to clean it, but we still have that memory. We still held on to it.
Absolutely. Well, Debbie,
Exactly.
thank you for sharing your story, and I encourage those to get the book and to find out more about it. I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. The entire Fusion praise team is going to be leading us in just a moment and taking us out today in worship. And we just encourage you to, at any point while we're on the air, dial that number that's on the screen. Let somebody agree with you, pray with you that you can get through your storm, you can get through your trial, and that you can find the peace and the strength of God, that God's love is reaching, that God's love is everlasting, and there's nothing you can do to make him not love you. Even while you were yet a sinner, he loved you, and he loves you even now. That is what Christ is. He is love. We started the program talking about the love of God, and we're going to end it singing the reckless love of God. God bless you. We'll see you next time.
For I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so good to me. For I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was your foe, still your love fought for me. And you have been so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so kind. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still, you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. No shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.